Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series on the STV or Sega Titan video arcade board, and today we're taking a look at Groove On Fight. It is the fourth game in the Power Instinct franchise from Atlus, and it is completely different than any other Power Instinct game that came before it or came after it, but I absolutely still love it. And if you've been watching the channel whatsoever, you know I love Power Instinct Matrimelee and the sequel Power Instinct 5 on the Taito Type X2 arcade board, so of course I'm going to love a game like this. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. And if you've ever played any Power Instinct game and you've never played Groove On Fight, you're going to notice immediately the roster is completely different outside of two existing characters. The entire storyline of this game is it takes place in the future. And if you've never played any Power Instinct game, then you're not going to realize that they have a very weird sense of humor. Now, Groove On Fight definitely dials that humor down a little bit compared to something like Matrimelee, which is just absurd from start to finish, but it still has a lot of that fun character design and strangeness in the game as well, because you'll see here, as that giant blade comes down, a happy face comes out of the musical note and basically smiles as it's attacking its enemy. And this is a 2-on-2 fighting game. Your opponent's friend will jump in after you beat your opponent, or vice versa. Your secondary character will come out when you either tag him in or when you run out of life on your life bar. So it's basically 2-on-2. But compared to the very colorful nature of the Power Instinct series, Groove On Fight has a definitely darker tone, because you see that almost H.R. Geiger-esque monster coming out of the background as we go right, and this mad scientist who's actually just looks like a little kid in a giant trench coat. This game has style to spare. That child's head in the back with those pipes coming out and that undulation is just a really weird look, but it's also a really good look. And you'll see here that we have different characters we can choose from as well, and when you do pick the right character for you, you can do some really interesting things. And I'll show you some more of the heavier combos in just a bit, because I haven't played this game in a few years, but I was relearning it as I was capturing the game itself. But you can do stuff like become this small, almost flying Grim Reaper character. Feels like you're playing a shmup, and you have these fire and bullet attacks that you can shoot against your enemy. Find me another fighting game where that is a thing you can do. I really don't think there is one. The backgrounds look spectacular, the sprite work is amazing. This is the best of what Power Instinct can do, but in a darker, more Guilty Gear style tone. I guess that would be the game that this reminds me of the most, is something like Guilty Gear, because it has that kind of like punk rock aesthetic going on with it, and I just absolutely love it and find it spectacular. But this is one of those games that maybe you've never seen before. It is quite rare and expensive if you want to buy it on the Saturn, and you do need a RAM cartridge to be able to play it. And if you want a complete kit on the STV arcade board, that's going to cost you as well. But of course, there are other ways to play these things, wink wink, nod nod, and however you decide to play the game, I hope you just do it, because trust me, if you like fighting games, you're going to love this one. The only thing that I don't love about Groove On Fight, and it's not a complaint, it is just different, is that while the soundtrack is fun and really weird and unique, it doesn't rise up to the levels of something like Power Instinct Matrimelee or Power Instinct 5 when it comes to just sheer absurdity. But go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds or so, because the soundtrack is still really good, and I'll come back and tell you more why Groove On Fight's one of the best fighting games you've never played. Enjoy! The game certainly has a very similar sense of humor compared to Power Instinct Matrimelee, but that humor is a little bit more subdued than just the humor to the level of 11 on something like Power Instinct. Now there are a few backgrounds that I would just consider a little bit of a stinker, and this flying Air Force plane that we're fighting on the back of is definitely one of those. Because all the other backgrounds in this game I think are absolutely gorgeous and spectacular and have some amazing pixel art. This is just one stage that feels like it's slightly phoned in, but honestly it's still decent. And if the biggest complaint I have about this game, outside of I wish the soundtrack was a little bit weirder, is that one of the backgrounds just isn't my quote-unquote favorite, I think we're doing a really good job with this game. But the thing about Groove on Fight is that a lot of people do know about Power Instinct. It might not be everyone's top tier A-rated game, but pretty much if you're into fighting games, you probably played one Power Instinct game somewhere. But Groove on Fight seems to be just completely forgotten about. And how can you forget about a game that allows you to throw a corpse at your opponent? I died with my main character, so I just picked my corpse up after the fact and used it to attack somebody. And that is just some of the best and weirdest stuff I've ever seen in a fighting game. It's like kind of at the level of, you know, using the referee in Samurai Showdown, but in this instance it's even weirder. But like I said, this is the type of game that I feel like more people need to know about, and it is a little strange that it just really didn't get much press back in the day, and most reviewers said this game was only okay. I would say it's much better than only okay, but your opinion may vary, and if you have played it, leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think, because I always love hearing about other people's opinions of games, because I know I'm not an echo chamber, I'm not a vacuum. I love hearing what you guys think, because sometimes you do change my mind about games. Some games that I think are better than they get credit for, I hear most people disagree with me. Sometimes a game that I think is just decent, I find out that so many people love it, it makes me reassess the game, and I really do enjoy that, having those conversations with you guys, so do leave me those comments, not just to feed the algorithm, but for me to actually chat with you as well. But I also love the ending of this game. You're in this palatial palace with that marble floor, and you have that vanishing line towards the background in that throne area, that giant goblet, and you get just enough story here, and you're actually going to be forced to fight the person you've been fighting alongside this entire time. And honestly, the ending of this game takes about 33% of the entire playtime to get from start to finish. It just goes on and on, but not in a bad way. It just kind of plays around with your expectations, because we're in the middle of a fight here with the person that we were fighting with, and all of a sudden, this vampiric looking dude just bursts out of the back of the guy you fought previously and turns your friend into a zombie. I did not see it coming the first time I played this game, but I absolutely love it knowing it's happening, and I just love this vibrant red hue in the background art here as well. It just totally sets a mood that you're absolutely gonna love. And now you have to fight that dude again, but now he's a vampire and his health bar is still low. The more damage you can take off him before he turns, the better off you're going to be. And that's the thing about Groove on Fight. It's got a lot of personality, and you're either going to love it for that personality, or it's totally going to not land with you and you're going to think it's a big miss. But you should definitely play it if you haven't played it, and find out which side of the fence that's going to lie on, because for me, this is one of the best 2D hidden gem fighting games that I can recommend to you. It's got everything I love in a fighting game. Really great mechanics, it has good controls, the specials feel really good, its sense of humor is massive, it's got a great soundtrack, and it's got some really nice 2D pixel work with the backgrounds, and those sprites have a good amount of animation in them. Like I said, the only thing about this game that I don't love as much as the other games in the franchise is that slightly darker tone. I do appreciate it for pivoting from the classic Power Instinct sort of franchise look and feel, but honestly it makes me just want to go back and play Matrimelee a little bit more, because I miss the soundtrack out of that. But you'll see here, I beat the game, I don't speak Japanese, and I really don't know what's going on. Maybe I didn't do it the quote-unquote right way. But you get a decent amount of story as well for each character. This is a relatively fully fleshed out arcade fighting game experience that's going to give you a decent sense of satisfaction when you beat it. But like every 2D fighting game, you're going to have a lot more fun if you're playing against a human opponent. Invite your friends over, throw this game on, and give it a go. And my favorite part is when you actually beat the game, you can then attack the credits as they scroll by. Short of that, that's Groove on Fight. Leave me a comment down below. Have you played it? Have you heard of it before? Because sometimes you guys have never heard of the games. I'll be back next Wednesday with another STV video. I'll have videos for the week as well, but I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.